Good morning. I'm Harley Schlanger from the LaRouche Organization with your daily video update for November 16th, 2023. I'm going to be giving an abbreviated update to you today because I have a series of meetings I have to get to, and there are a number of things which are inconclusive from the reports we've received so far. So I'll catch you up on the more important developments tomorrow. But I am going to be linking in the description section the webcast dialogue I did with Helga Zepp-LaRouche yesterday, which I think is very important for people to watch. Helga developed a number of key concepts, but I think the way she started it was what I'd like to just leave with you. She said with the meeting between Biden and Xi Jinping yesterday in San Francisco, provided tiny signs of hope in an ocean of instability and horrors. Now, the spin so far is that there was some agreement. The most important thing that Helga said is that they're talking and that they opened up a dialogue between the two nations' militaries. You have the two largest economies in the world headed toward a confrontation. And this is a confrontation provoked by the neocons and neolibs of the globalist unipolar order. So to step back from that, even if it's just for a moment in talking, represents this tiny sign of hope. Now, otherwise, we see, when you talk about the horrors, the invasion of the Al-Shifa hospital in Gaza. The United States gave a go-ahead to Israel by saying that U.S. intelligence confirmed that it's a terror center under the hospital. Israeli officials called it the beating heart of Hamas terrorist infrastructure. But the Washington Post, in its report on the videos released by the IDF yesterday, the Israeli Defense Forces, showed military uniforms, 11 guns, 3 military vests, and 9 grenades. Hardly the stuff of a headquarters. Now, there may be more. They said this is just the initial response. But the question is, was the raid a war crime, or is there actually more evidence that will come out? In the meantime, the hospital has no fuel, little water, filled with sick and wounded and refugees that have been seeking shelter. With military forces moving into the hospital, the doctors are finding it very hard with all these other constraints to provide even minimal health. And so what we're seeing is the continuation of Gaza being turned into a graveyard. There was a 12-0 vote at the UN Security Council yesterday for humanitarian pauses, not a ceasefire. And the US and the United Kingdom abstained because it didn't condemn Hamas. Russia abstained because it didn't call for a full ceasefire. But we'll see what comes from that, as well as the Biden-Xi meeting. Also note that Britain's new Foreign Secretary, David Cameron, went to Kiev yesterday to meet with Zelensky, in which he pledged more support from the United Kingdom. So we're in a moment of history where the conditions are moving still toward more confrontation, more chaos. There was a vote in the Congress yesterday to approve a budget, again, a short-term budget. We're seeing the growth of debt everywhere in the world, the collapse of physical economic production, and we're seeing governments losing support of the populations. The good thing about that is that the people realize governments are not serving the interests of the people. They're serving the interests of the corporate cartels that provide the funding for campaigns and that are demanding the pound of flesh that is coming from increasingly skinny bodies. And what's necessary now is for people around the world to recognize the common interests of mankind are represented by a growing economy, by a commitment to expand the scientific and technological capabilities of all nations, that freedom and human rights mean nothing if you're hungry and have no home. And so we have put together a program, a solution, the LaRouche program. I'm going to append also Helga Zepp-LaRouche's fundamental principles that should be at the basis of any agreement between nations. So you'll have the webcast to look at and the fundamental principles Spend some time with it, think about it. As I said, I'll fill in the details more tomorrow, but I think it's important that people make the time to engage in critical thinking and in mobilizing others. That's the only solution. People-to-people diplomacy, discussion, dialogue. That's how nations should function. That's how neighbors should function. So I'll be back tomorrow. If you do have questions for me, since it will be Friday, send me your questions or comments at harleysch@gmail.com.